Yo, what's good with y'all, man? It's Swervo Hoops, man. Welcome back to the channel, bro. You already know what it is. It's your boy Swervo Hoops. So we gonna be talking about some hoops. You feel what I'm saying? Now, today's video is gonna be about us grading the off-season moves that's been going on this year in the NBA so far. I know there's gonna be even more moves to come, but we're gonna talk about the ones that's just been happening recently. And yeah, we're gonna go down the list of every team and the movements they've been doing and shit like that. You know how today's NBA is. Players just going anywhere. Or if they did really good last season, some teams are trying to run it back. So yeah, man, let's just get straight to it, man. Let's not waste no time, bro. The first team we got up is the Atlanta Hawks. Now, they have re-signed Solomon Hill. They signed Gorgie Dang, gave Trae Young a contract extension. And they re-signed John Collins and Lou Williams. Now, even though it's nothing significant, any star players not going to their team, nothing like that crazy yet. They did add some depth at the big man spot off of the bench, and they re-signed their two best players in John Collins and Trae Young. So, I mean, you could debate whether Clint Capella is better than John Collins, but I think Collins is more skilled. But anyways, yeah, Lou Williams is a solid piece for them off the bench still. I mean, I think they kind of are just running it back with a similar team they had to last year unless they make any other significant moves in the future. And I'd give them a B. Yeah, solid B. They didn't really do nothing too great, too bad. They lost Chris Dunn and Bruno Fernando, and I mean, shit, they gained Gorgie Dang and re-signed the players they had from last year. So give them a solid B. That's calm. In Boston, they've gotten Chris Dunn, Josh Richardson, Al Horford, and they got Bruno Fernando from the Hawks. Not to mention, they extended Marcus Smart for another 4 years and signed Dennis Schroeder to a 1-year deal. Honestly, I'm going to give him probably like a C+, just because it's like the Celtics were already a good team. You feel what I'm saying? Like, they haven't really done anything this offseason to really make them a great team. Yes, they added some role players that might help them a bit more defensively. And yeah, we're hoping for that next jump for Jaylen Brown and Tatum. But I still feel like it's not a team that could really compete in a final setting, or anybody's going crazy about how successful they're going to be in the postseason. I don't know. I still expect them to be a really good team in the East, but yeah, nothing more or less than that. Now with Brooklyn, the fact that they have KD, Kyrie, and James Harden all on the same team should really be enough for them to compete for at least a conference final spot in the East, but obviously we know this team is looking for more. Now, with the role players they signed this offseason in Patty Mills and James Johnson, I don't think it really solves their problems. Yes, James Johnson can guard multiple positions, solid defender, and Patty Mills could be like an offensive spark plug for them off the bench. He has a chip as well. You know, they'll make an impact, but this team definitely needs a big man, or at least a wing defender that can guard the perimeter well. I feel like although JaVale McGee went to the Suns, he would have been a really good pickup for them, or someone like a Tristan Thompson, but yeah, they need like a solid rim protector, rebounder type player to fit these star players' needs. Now, for the role players that they lost, they did lose Spencer Dinwiddie, Shamet, and Jeff Green, all of them important role players to this team's offensive success. But like I said, the team has 3 superstars. Generating points will not be a problem for them. I think Blake Griffin and Bruce Brown also signed for another year, so they still kept the core role players, I guess, that showed up for them in the playoffs a little bit. And yeah, I'm just going to give the Nets like a C, though, just because they really didn't fix any of their weaknesses, and they just, I don't know. Let's see what the future brings us, but as of right now, with these moves they've made, what they gained and lost so far, I'm going to just give them a calm C. Charlotte. Now, we know with Charlotte, they are a young team. I mean, they did better than most people expected last season. They made the play-in tournament, and yeah, Indiana dusted that ass, but like I said, they're a young team, still got ways to go, and they only can get better. LaMelo is a lot better than I think most people expected him to be in his rookie year. And Terry Rozier also took a significant jump this year, averaging 20 points. Gordon Hayward, if healthy, who knows what they would have done in the playoffs. I don't know, but Anyways, yeah, for the players they gained, they got Ish Smith, Kelly Oubre, and Mason Plumlee. All solid role players that I think will fit really well on this team, especially with Kelly Oubre becoming a better defender. It really just depends on the jump that LaMelo and Terry Rozier will take as a backcourt together, because obviously two with the players they lost in Devontae Graham and Coley Zeller. For the role players they gained, they did lose some key role players as well. Now, for Cody Zeller, I guess you could just say Mason Plumlee will balance that out. But, yeah, man, I mean, I'd give them, like, a calm B-, just because I feel like they replaced the spots that they needed to replace for the players they lost. Chicago. Now, with them, I ain't gonna lie, Chicago is probably having one of the best off seasons out of any NBA team. Probably aside from like the Lakers, if you want to say. But like the moves that Chicago, look, they just signed and traded for DeMar DeRozan, and they signed Lonzo Ball. They're about to re-sign Levine, and they made a trade for Vucevic last season. Now, correct me if I'm wrong, but that's 3 All-Stars on the team, and then you have a solid-ass point guard. And for all they lost, they only really lost Satoransky, Garrett Temple, and Daniel Tice. They're going to make the playoffs this year, and they got Caruso, so it's already a done deal. Now, for the grade I'd give them, I'm giving them a solid A. They did a really good job of surrounding Zach LaVine with talent on this team, and I feel like with the star players that they gained and in Lonzo Ball, they just gained a lot of players that really fits the skill sets and weaknesses that they needed desperately for this team to succeed. And I feel like Chicago's they're gonna surprise some people next season, man. I'm not saying they competing for a chip or anything, but they'll definitely be a really good team in the East with a collection of talent, just passing IQ, scoring ability, defensive. Well, they could, afford to get some 3-and-D players. But, yeah, I mean, shit, bro. For the team that they have right now, they're really solid. Yeah, I'm going to give them a solid A for this one for sure. Maybe even borderline A+, but I'm going to keep it calm for them, feel me? Just because they can afford to get some more defensive players on this team. Like, let's be honest, their best players aren't the greatest defenders. The Memphis Grizzlies, they gave up Jonas Valanciunas for Steven Adams and Eric Bledsoe. I feel like this was really just to release some salary cap for the New Orleans Pelicans. But in this trade, though, I definitely feel like New Orleans kind of won. But we'll talk about New Orleans later on in the video. With Memphis, though, I feel like although Valanciunas is the better center, they did gain 2 role players. If they so happen to keep them, I do have a heavy feeling that Bledsoe will be eventually traded. But if they don't choose to trade him, I feel like he can serve as like a solid backup point guard for Memphis and can contribute solid enough perimeter defending. You feel me? He's not as good as he once was, but it's still there. And I mean, like, it's just adding more depth to a team that really just made the playoffs. The young players will just keep getting better. I give this grade maybe like a B-. It's nothing crazy. I feel like both teams could say that they didn't lose the trade in a way. Just for the sake of lineup versatility from Miami, and if Oladipo could come anywhere close to the Oladipo he was about 4 or 5 years ago, then we're looking at like a borderline championship contending team, as if that wasn't the case already. And for the players they lost in Trevor Ariza, Nemanja, Dragic, Achua, all solid role players, as I said at the end of the day. But, I mean, they gained Kyle Lowry, bro. I mean, shit, bro. That's a whole all-star right there. And he's going to fit this team very well. I can see for the times that they struggled offensively, it seemed like in the postseason, I feel like he will be able to make an immediate impact on that side of the ball. And let's not forget that Kyle Lowry is no slouch when it comes to defense. I did make a video on what team Kyle Lowry should have gone to in the offseason. And although I did mention Miami towards the end, I didn't really think it was going to happen because I just thought it was just another one of those rumors like the Lakers. Like, everybody wants a star player to go to either one of those teams. And although that did end up happening in this offseason anyways, I just didn't think it would happen with Kyle Lowry. I don't know, man. I don't fucking know. Yeah, nonetheless, really good pickup for Miami. For the grade I'll give them a very calm A, because along with Kyle Lowry, they picked up Markieff Morris and PJ Tucker, 2 very solid role players. I'm expecting them to be at least a top 5 defense in the NBA next year. So, yeah, man, that's my grade for Miami, bro. Now for the reigning champs, the Milwaukee Bucks. They re-signed Bobby Portis. They brought George Hill back and Semi Ojeleye in their free agency. I think with the contracts they have, they really can't afford to really get another star. And it's a small market team, so they obviously did what they could. Now, ideally, getting George Hill back and re-signing Bobby Portis should provide some offensive spark for them off the bench. Whether they choose to start Bobby Portis more often next year, who knows? But they did lose PJ Tucker and Bryn Forbes, which is key spot-up shooters for them. And PJ Tucker being the defender that he was for them. And, I mean, honestly, I don't see them, like, dropping off defensively dramatically or anything. As for their grade, though, I'd give them a calm, C+. I mean, they didn't do nothing too crazy, but for losing PJ Tucker and Bryn Forbes, it wasn't that bad of a return. If you didn't watch my previous video, I did mention that New Orleans Pelicans was a favorite destination for Kyle Lowry to go to in this past offseason, just for the simple fact that I feel like his strong leadership abilities, his abilities to play make, floor space, and just be another ball handler for them is going to be very essential for some growth for a lot of young players on this team. Now, it didn't happen, and instead, they did get Jonas Valanciunas and Devontae Graham in this past free agency. They deserve a calm, not even calm. I think I should just give them a straight C-, to be honest. They did, like I said, add talent for the talent they lost, but they don't make those improvements defensively because already your two best players aren't great on that side of the ball. So if you can't even get players to help with that weakness, I don't see New Orleans making a jump this year. Unless, like I said, I mean, their best players make that jump defensively. But yeah. Now, I ain't a Knicks fan or really a fan of any team in the NBA, to really be honest with you. But being that I'm from New York, I do got to shed light on how the future of this franchise is starting to look a little more bright. With Julius Randle having the best year of his career. And yes, he did have an unsuccessful postseason, we'll admit, some inconsistencies. And the Knicks have found their all-star level player that they can build around for the future. I mean, the sky's the limit with Julius Randle being only 26 years old. They are now gathering the right role pieces to put around him for him to have some talent on his team and hopefully make a deeper playoff run this year than they did last year. So, yeah. Being that New York's offense at times last year was a bit stagnant due to the lack of efficient shot creators they have on this team. Not to say that dudes are trash or anything, but in terms of consistency and shot creation, they didn't really have anyone that was great in those areas outside of Julius Randle. I'd give New York a solid B+, just for the simple fact that I do think that the players they signed do address some of the weaknesses they had last year. Although they were top 5 in the league in defense, they were one of the worst offensive teams in the league last year. Now, yeah, a lot of their players did take significant jumps in terms of their three-point percentage, but acquiring Fournier and also re-signing Julius Randle and a lot of the role players that they re-signed were players necessary to help them run a smooth offense. Adding Fournier and Kemba Walker, it's pretty good pickups to address that issue. All right, with Philadelphia now, I mean, they got Andre Drummond and they re-signed Korkmaz and Danny Green. Solid 3-and-D players, but whatever. But with Drummond, though, I mean, it was kind of like a replacement piece if you really want to think about it for losing Dwight Howard. And if Andre Drummond buys into his role, then this could work out pretty well. You feel what I'm saying? He's still a really good rebounder. In my opinion, the best rebounder in the NBA. And he still could finish around the rim at a solid, decent rate. Similar to Dwight Howard, you feel me? Now, don't get me wrong. I'm not saying he would be the defender that Dwight Howard was for them. But if he doesn't buy in, I don't see how this would be a good pickup at all. And they didn't really get anybody else other than that. So, I mean, I'm going to just give Philly like a calm C- and just wait to see with this one. But as most of us know, Ben Simmons' name has been brought up in trade rumors throughout this whole offseason. So Philly's offseason mainly rides on what they can get in return for him. Now, it might be too early to make this statement, but I believe that Phoenix is probably one of the biggest L's of this offseason out of any team in the NBA right now, just for the contract that they gave Chris Paul to re-sign to. Now, no one is saying that Chris Paul is not a great player in today's NBA still, but the man is 36 years old, and they just extended him to a 4-year, $120 million deal. He's most likely going to retire on this contract, and he's not going to be as good as he was last season, probably in those last 2 years of that contract. Not saying he wasn't deserving of the money or whatever. We understand what Chris Paul has done for the NBA and how great he is, etc., etc. But yeah, that move was a huge L, and it might stunt the growth of their young players. Now, he did bring them to the finals last season, and I'm assuming that's what Phoenix was trying to do, being nice and all. But I mean, with the contract they signed him to, it's going to be harder to draw talent to that team. And I mean, they re-signed Cameron Payne. They bought in JaVale McGee. I mean, shit, bro. They just got to hope that this team really can bring them back to the finals, especially with players in the West and teams in the West just getting better. So, I mean, shit. I would give them like a D+. Yes, they did re-sign Chris Paul. Yes, they might still be a top 5 team in the West. But is this a move that made them championship contenders again, or even a team to make the finals again? I mean, credit to where the credit is due, but let's not, they did beat some injured teams. But yeah, I'm just going to leave it at that. Props to Phoenix, though. Man, Portland now. I know there was a lot of crazy trade rumors happening with Damian Lillard this past offseason because he's been showing signs of being disgruntled with the front office and the amount of talent he's really just been receiving his whole career in Portland. Mind you, they've been getting exited out of the first round the past 4 out of 5 years, so I don't blame him. But let's see if he really remains loyal for this next season, because as of right now, all Portland has brought to this team is Cody Zeller. They re-signed Norman Powell, and they brought in Tony Snell. Now, unless Tony Snell or any of these players become all-star level caliber players, yeah, Portland's going to be in the same situation they've been in the past 5 years. Don't get me wrong, Norman Powell, solid bucket. You feel what I'm saying? Can average them about 18, maybe if you're lucky, 20 points. But yeah, nah, they're really not doing shit. I'd give them a C. They did lose Melo, they did lose Zach Collins, and they lost Enes Kanter, so they lost some firepower off that bench. And they did get smaller as well. But, I mean, Cody Zeller might not be the scorer or rebounder that Enes Kanter was, but in terms of being a backup big from them that can support the roles that they might need off the bench, he could be pretty solid for them. And plus, he's a more defensively sound center than Enes Kanter, if anything. Yeah, I mean, shit, bro. Portland, Dame, prayers to you, man. All right, with Utah re-signed Mike Conley, and they brought in Hassan Whiteside and Rudy Gay, and they gained Eric Pascal. Now, in my opinion, these is really good moves, because for the players that they only lost, which was Derek Favors, I mean, they're just adding on to the number 1 seeded team they already had from last season. Now, again, I don't think they're going to be any, like, championship contenders or anything, but let's just say Donovan Mitchell takes that next leap and becomes like a top 10 player in the NBA. Who really knows, bro? I feel like Utah is always this team that people say is like the sleeper team to probably, you feel me, do greater things than people expect. But honestly, man, I just got to see it in the playoffs out of them. I mean, they have the potential to do it, obviously. They have a really good, well-rounded team. But a key factor in their offseason really is where Joe Ingles decides to go after this offseason. Because although the stats may not show it, he plays a very pivotal part for this Utah team, with him being exceptional at playmaking, shot creator for them at times, spot-up shooter, and being a 3-and-D wing defender for them. So Joe Ingles is a very Swiss Army knife type of role player that most championship level contending teams would want. For the grade I'm gonna give them on their all season though, they get a B though, for sure. They all season been solid so far. With Washington, although Russell Westbrook is my favorite player, they were in a rush to get him out of there because they didn't really meet the expectations they had for this previous season. Now, like I said, although he is my favorite player, I do feel like this trade that they made to get rid of Russ probably was the best possible outcome for them. Although they are still small at the big man position, I do believe that the addition of Montrez coming off the bench for them Thomas Bryant is healthy, I think they should definitely start him. You have Kuzma, who should prove to be the potential 18, 19-point scorer everybody expected him to be. We know him being in LA, he didn't get the ball as much enough shots. And just with Russ being gone, I feel like the shot distribution between who's the primary first option and the rest of the role players who just play their role is going to be split a lot evenly. They also added Spencer Dinwiddie to the point guard position. He's no Russell Westbrook, but I'd say he's a little bit shy of an all-star caliber player. If he's healthy as well this year, I could see him averaging 20 on this roster. And, you know, I know Washington, they're not looking the greatest. Obviously, it's still even really a roll the dice type of thing if they make the playoffs in the East this year. But I definitely do think that they became more of a well-rounded team with this move and the players that they have gained. Although this roster could still use some playmakers and defensive players, in all honesty, I think if Joe Ingles was to go to a team like this, they'd be really, really valid, not gonna lie. But still, in all, they're not that bad, to be honest with you. The grade I would give them, though, I'd give them a solid B-. I mean, they did what they could with that Westbrook trade, and they got the best possible return. So, that being said, hope you guys enjoyed the video. If you did, leave a like on it. Comment your opinion on what you think you would grade these teams for their all-season, or what moves they should potentially make, because it's still free agency, it's still the all-season, so there's still a lot more that can happen. A lot more star players still soon, too, to get traded. For Siakam and Ben Simmons is still in the trade rumors. We still waiting to see what happens with those star players. And if any other players we don't know about get moved, you feel me? But yeah, check the links in the socials below, you feel me? Follow the channel, all that shit, bro. I'ma holla at y'all, man. Be easy. It's Swervo Hoops, talking some hoops, man. And with the Lakers off-season moves, although I know I said earlier in the video they did probably have a better off-season than most NBA teams this season, I'm not going to lie, there's just a lot to unpack with the pickups and additions they made to that team, so I'm probably going to make a separate video for that. And yeah, stay tuned for that. I'ma holla at y'all.